look like you in your younger days, Ivan.
Absolutely, yeah, that was me. I was there. Had Leo's hair, but he's that's gone with the wind now as well. So, yeah,
Morning, Edward.
Morning.
morning. Welcome everybody. So this morning we're talking about how do you get up after you've been knocked down. So I thought that was an appropriate one to kick off with. So, Lee, bit old for you to remember that, but you know some of the younger guys amongst us might sort of vaguely recall that one.
In my cradle when that came out. Yeah, so it's this analogy of this wave that just comes at you and just wallops you down to the floor, and how do you get up? How do you find your way above the waves again, to take a breath and the courage to pick up the next wave, to get back into the sea. And so having been hit by a couple of waves in my life, I think the first thing that I certainly underestimated when really big waves have hit is the shock factor. You know, my tendency is just to pick yourself up and just to keep on going. But when something really hard happens and it just does wallop you, there is an experience of shock and disbelief, and you are shattered for a period of time, and yes, you will get up, but I think you have to give yourself a little bit of space just to shake yourself off a little bit, just to acknowledge the entity of this wave that hit you, and part of that is processing it in some way. And it's all, for me, I experience it in myself and in other people in different ways, verbally, needing to talk to people or to write it out, or to also just get away, or to take some time off. So there's some sort of little buffer that we need to give ourselves that says, okay, I'm allowing myself some space to understand what's happening, to process it, to feel the feelings. But I think what helps to get us up and what keeps us going, and the two things that come to my mind is, one, that you have a picture of something that's bigger than this wave, that this is a wave, but life is more than this wave, and that there will be another side. There will be, this wave will pass, and there will be something different and positive that you can look forward to, and that life is, you know, there are bigger waves than other waves, but life is not one entire wave. You will actually, you know, get to the other side, and there will be wonderful things ahead. And then I think the other thing is that, and I don't want to use the word lessons. Yes, there's lessons. But there's also, and Jasper's spoken about this in the past, and it's a different analogy, that the seeds of the good thing in the future actually lie in this wave. You think this wave is destroying something, but in actual fact, it's creating something that would never have happened if it hadn't have been for that wave that knocked you down at that moment in time, because you come up as a different person. Whatever that wave has done to you, whatever it's battered in and out of you, there is something that's changed in your thinking, in your character, in your way of being, and in you the possibilities that now you see that you didn't see before. And so so I think that's my thinking around how to get up.
Great, thanks, thanks,
Thanks,
Lee. Oh, I'm just being dive bombed by an aeroplane here. So I think we need to get across to Jasper, because he's just waved at me to say that he's going to jump ship early. So Jasper, how do you plant your seeds in your wave, or do you just wave goodbye?
Well, with morning, with Trevor's training on how do you ride the waves and all the things that can go wrong, I could only imagine, it looks okay here on top of the water, but like you said, downstairs and that wave crushes you, it can be more dangerous to duck under the wave and have that sharp corals and sharp things cutting you. So it conjured up for me of both are evil. You're going to get crushed by the wave, or you're going to get messed up by the corals. So do you choose, or do you just handle what life gives you? Because it's almost like an accident. You don't plan an accident to happen, but it's now going to happen. And now how do you ride it out? So it was about that situation in life. Times you just dealt a thing that you have to deal with, and it's almost, you can't choose. Life chooses for you, because whatever you would have chosen, you were going to get hurt. And like Lee says, then all right, so what next? Then I'm also thinking, if for a surfer, that's his thing. He wants to get through the wave so that he can catch the next wave. And even if he waits a whole day for that next wave, it's all about riding the wave. But if I'm a novice or someone who's not that passionate about surfing, and now a wave crashed me, I might easily say, you know what, this is not for me. I don't want to be in this in the water. So get out of the water. So life continues on the land as well. So sometimes I think the analogy for me is, some people are in business and they get hurt, but they shouldn't have been in that business in the first place, or they find themselves in situations in life where they shouldn't have been in the first place. But the good news is you can make new choices, and life exists outside water. Water is not the only world out there. Now I can see Trevor getting ready to jump on my statements there, but I'll give him a chance just now. But this I do want, I've got that fight in me to master these waves. I'm sure when it happens the first time, my confidence is so shattered. And as it happened, I don't think you think of anything else but, listen, I have to survive this. So it's all about survival. And then as soon as you've survived it and come up for air, then you start taking stock of what's left. So is my surfboard still there? Is my tool still there? Am I still alive? And then nothing broken. And then after you've taken stock, and I'm sure, like Lee said, it's a shock to your system. Then you have to say, all right, is my goal to conquer these waves still there? Then you might have to regain your confidence a little bit in the lower, the smaller waves and the less turmoil water, until you can get your confidence again. So I think one can take a whole lot of lessons out of the analogy of, do I duck under, or do I let the wave crush me? I think my conclusion is, when you're at that point of the fight, you don't have a choice. It's going to be the one or the other. So it's literally probably all about survival. And then afterwards, depending on the fight in you, do I want to get back in the water, or do I choose a new occupation and go on land and conquer the world from the land and leave the water for someone like Trevor?
Thanks, Jasper. Yeah, and in some circles they call it evolution. We came from the water and moved to the land. Some people just never got out the water. So we can have a discussion on that at some stage. But yeah, I think we'll leave Trevor stewing in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen for the moment, and then hop across to Leo next and see what his thoughts are. Leo, you're muted there. You just need to unmute yourself. Leo, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, sorry, my apologies. I'm still getting used to this. Bit of a dinosaur when it comes to all of this new technology. I think the analogy. So I came in with you guys talking about the waves, and so new to your whole journey here. But one of the things about waves and being dunked. You probably all know Chris Burtish. He paddled, stand-up paddled across the Atlantic, and he surfed the Mavericks, a very large wave surfer. Everybody know who I'm talking about? Not yet? Okay, so one of the things I having read his book and followed his journey across the ocean, was that his father instilled a love for him in surfing. So, when he was a kid at 6 or something, he was already surfing, maybe even at 4, he had 2 big brothers, and so his father instilled a love, and he never really anticipated these very large projects like Mavericks, 100-foot waves, and when you get dunked by a 100-foot wave, you have to have the skills to survive it. And he did this project about standing up, paddling across the ocean, and again, you had to have certainly a prior sense of strength and well-being before you even attempted such a large project. And I think for me, this being dunked is a journey of starting small. Let's start the small waves first. And so when you get dunked with a small wave, you can get up after 20 seconds and survive. And within time, he developed a passion to do these big waves, and then started big wave surfing in South Africa. And then obviously, the bigger the waves, the harder the dunk, and people drown. People die. He had to haul one person out of the water that got dunked by the wave, and the guy didn't make it. He didn't survive. And so I think for me, the lesson is, while I get inspired by the Elon Musks and, colonizing Mars, and, the Chris Burtishes that, stand up paddle across the oceans. And, I've never surfed, so, but I look at this guy, and, he won Mavericks, but these are like scary stuff, I think we have to learn to surf small first, so that when we get dunked, we have learned to hold our breath for 20 seconds. Because in Mavericks, you have to hold your breath for 3 minutes, because otherwise you don't get up. You'll die because the wave keeps you under for 3 minutes. And I think as we journey now, we all have journeyed through life. I look at the faces, and we all have had our journeys. I can imagine, and those journeys included some hard times and good times, and I think we need to prepare in smaller journeys, and then not be afraid of bigger journeys. But don't become a maverick surfer on your first go. Start smaller, learn to survive the dunking, then get better, and then as the bigger projects come, we will have more strength to survive the bigger dunkings. I mean, you know, when Elon Musk had to lock down in his, not lockdown, but you know, he started sleeping in his Tesla office because, you know, when he was doing the Model 3, it just got so crazy. I mean, you know, that was like a heavy dunking, you know, when he was doing Model 3, but he had already done, you know, the Tesla, you know, sedan, and then the Tesla Roadster, and even with the Roadster, you know, I mean, the stuff that he had to go through, but then, you know, he didn't go through the stuff at Tesla only. Then he, you know, he had PayPal, you know, and he went through a whole lot of stuff at PayPal. But it wasn't PayPal, you know, before PayPal, it was Zip2, you know, and at Zip2, you know, he rented an office, you know, drilled a hole down so that he could use the server. You know, he slept in his office because he couldn't afford the rent of a room. He showered at the Y. You know, he ate, you know, $30 meals for a month. You know, so he was, you know, he could never have done SpaceX without Zip2. You know, he could never have done Zip2 without, you know, parents who helped him. So I think our journeys, dunking is part of life, a very hard part of life. But let's be dunked small before we get dunked and drowned.
Thanks, Leo. Yeah, so I think we better go across to the real Englishman in the group and find out whether he dunks his rusks in his tea or whether he just avoids it altogether. So Ed, across to you.
I think rusks in tea is definitely a no-no. Rusks in coffee, yes. Yeah, I wasn't sure which way to go. I loved the discussion yesterday, and I looked up the person that Leo suggested. I think also, Ivan, you mentioned someone and Lyme's disease. I looked them up. Fascinating stuff, really fascinating. But I thought, rather than think about how to get up after you've been dunked or crashed on, what are that about those people that never have the chance to get up? You know, Lee made the point that, you know, there'll be a wave, then there'll be another wave, and there'll be good things to look forward to. And then Leo talked about his father instilled in him a love of surfing, and he had a prior sense of strength and self-worth. And then with Elon Musk, his parents helped him. And if you think about Richard Branson, you know, he went to a public school. I think you guys call them a private school, but it's a privileged school where they instill in you a sense of self-worth, a sense of entitlement. And then, of course, he started off, but when he got in trouble, his parents bailed him out because they had money. And I remember I went on a surfing lesson with some kids, some disadvantaged kids. One of them managed to stand up on the board, and wow, what a sense of achievement that child had. And they were children who lived pretty close to the sea, but had never been to the sea. They lived on an estate in Plymouth, which is, if you know Plymouth, it's where the founding fathers from America set sail from. So it's close to the sea. They had never been to the sea. And I think, you know, it's great if you go to a public school and get told you can do things. But if you go into a sink estate where in the schools, all they're trying to do is survive, your only way of actually getting out is to be a drug dealer, then you never get that chance to see the wonders from the top of that wave. And that's what I thought about was, why don't we give more people a chance to actually catch a wave, inspire them to do something, show them that they can do something. And I think it's all sorts of things that hold people down. It's interesting that during lockdown in the UK, quite a lot of people have been put on, I don't know if you have the term furlough in South Africa. They're put on leave with pay, and they've suddenly been freed because they haven't got this pressure to commute, this pressure to go to work every day. And they started small businesses, or they've decided, oh, I've always worked for a big HR firm or a big company in the HR department. I'm going to start my own HR consultancy. So remove from that sort of blanket of having to commute every day, having to grind out every day. They've become creative. They're riding their wave. So it works at all levels. And I think it is interesting that thing is his father instilled in him a love and a prior sense of strength. And I think that's what we need to do, is to inspire the next generation to achieve wonderful things, not just one or two people that have privilege, but everyone.
Great, thanks, Ed. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's interesting you talk about that. I was on one of the many networking events that I attend last night, and a group of the people were talking about, oh, can't wait to get back to the office. And I said, why do you want to get back to the office? You know? And the guy said, yeah, it's a challenge because you know, when I get up to make myself a cup of tea or coffee, you know, I've got to go downstairs and my little 2-year-old is there and she wants to be played with and cuddled. I said, what an absolute privilege, you know. I mean, this is surely not a problem. I mean, but it was interesting how those perspectives are so different, and people wanting to get back to the office. Yeah, no. Trevor, you've never left your office for the last 40 years, so you don't have a problem. So over to you.
Yep, interesting listening to everyone. Al, I've been struggling to get Chris to get on board here. He seems to be not aware of how to work with Zoom at the moment. So, but I was also interested to hear Leo talking. Look, something similar to that other Leo that came on yesterday. But I seem to recall you were perhaps down in the Cape, and a mate of mine is down there, also a stand-up board. He's a champ as well. Brandon Reed, you may know him. And then Kevin Todd, he's on the other side of the States. He's also one of our Springbok surfing mates from our old school days as well. So just listening to some of the analogies / metaphors, whatever the difference might be, and listening to Ed about privilege. I think we're all born with privilege. Just to be born onto this planet is a huge privilege. And when you take into account I'm going to call it 1 billion to 1 chance to actually be born out of those sperm cells, do the little calculation. I think it's about 400,000 to 1 to actually win that little race to actually end up on the planet. I think we should be sharing, as we're doing here on a forum like this, is that everyone is entitled to a great life when they're born on this planet. And it just happens, so happens that you are dealt with a series of cards. And then the privilege is that you're able to play the cards to the best of your ability. And one criticism I would have for Ed is a criticism that comes from my wife. So this is not me talking, but she's 100% spot on. And that is, you know what? There are people who are born in ghettos. They're born in townships. They're born having to survive from day one with what appear to be some of the greatest challenges ever. And the vast majority of them don't go down the route of being drug dealers and committing crime and doing those type of things. That's the easy way out, and it's an excuse. And it's all about individuals have choices. So that's my wife talking, but then sometimes I wonder if I was born into that situation, I would probably be the leader of the gang, Ed, and you would be my number 2, and we would go out there and rip the world off of everything and be entitled with our cigars and whiskey at the end of the day. No, we probably wouldn't. But let me get back to the surfing and wave analogy. I think Lee was talking about, and the discussion tended to be about being crushed by waves. And also, so these are all random thoughts that I'm trying to pick up, that under Mavericks, you've got to hold your breath for 3 minutes under a 100-foot wave. Now, listen, I used to be a big wave boy. Our version of big waves was anything between 10 to 15 foot off the Durban coast. And in fact, we used to go out there in storm surf right in the back line, and we used to actually take paddle skis to go and surf what were then 20 to 25 foot waves out where the tankers actually park. And those were very interesting. But really, when we got held under in those days, I remember Sean Atlas used to hold his breath for 3 minutes. I could hold my breath for about a minute and a half, but still under the maelstrom right at the bottom there, boy, you felt like you were going to go. But we always made it back up, but certainly wasn't 3 minutes. So you can just imagine how dangerous Mavericks is. And yes, people die. As people die on their way to Everest, to go and climb Everest, they don't even get to base camp, and they die on the blooming way. So there's always a risk involved in tackling new things, and you've got to be out there tackling things. And I love the Elon Musk story and the struggle. People just think this guy is a billionaire, but listen, he just didn't accept anything. He did things his own way and still does things his own way. And he'll probably go to Mars on a yo-yo, for goodness sake, because he doesn't follow the normal way of doing things. And one thing I wanted to add to Lee on waves, and also Jasper was sort of talking about this. I think Lee was going down the route of waves are always coming. So in the surfing world, you know, the top surfers know there's a momentum to these, there's a cycle to them, and they know, hey, I'm not going to take this one because I can count through 1, 2, 3, the fourth one coming through. That's the one that I'm waiting for. And especially if they're in competition, they look to select the correct wave, but they always know the next wave is coming. And if you go and sit on the beach, as Ivan is going to do, I'm sure, I know he's in the bush, you can sit there and you can watch. Those waves are always coming in. They are relentless. It's just that there are good days and there are bad days in the surf, and you've got to work out when it's a bad day, what do you want to do? That's the time to sit back, start thinking about who you are, what you want to do. It's bad days are time to think. And that is, I think, a fundamental and foundation of what Wisdoms is all about. If you're having a bad day, say, thank you very much. I'm going to sit back and I'm now going to start thinking, because the good days are coming. And that's because we understand the cycles of nature, and you just have to look at the ocean as being the metaphor for the good days are coming. Sit through the bad days, the windy days, they happen as well. And thank goodness you're not down at the bottom end of New Zealand, because you get more bad days than good days, and that you're in South Africa, you get more good days than bad days. And if you're in the UK, you get Ed Chapman, and I can't help you with that.
All right. Yeah, now you know why we've got so few people on this forum, and Trevor chases them all the way. No, jokes aside. Look, yeah, for me, I think it is an interesting topic, and you know, Jasper made a comment, and Trevor sort of touched on it from a different angle. Jasper said, sometimes you don't have a choice, and that I disagree with. I think you've always got a choice. And you know, it doesn't matter who you are or where you are, there's always a choice to be made. People feel they don't have options, but they do. You know, it's not easy when you're really struggling and you're right down the bottom and you've got challenges and sort of, but you still have a choice, and you can decide how you want to do things or not do things, which way you want to go, you know, whether you're going to get up, whether you're going to go and look for an Ed Chapman to mentor you, you know, and actually give you the option to understand that you do have a choice, and there are abilities well, there are options for you to go out and make different choices and do things differently. And I think, you know, that's what's really important about people who do offer their time and experience into situations where people feel they don't have choices, and actually show them, well, you know, there are choices that can be made. You can get up when you feel, you know, you're being pushed down. It's just simply realizing that it's a different way of looking at things. And I think, as Trevor said, I think that's what we're all about here. You know, it comes down to an attitudinal thing. It comes down to thinking. It comes down to people providing the right environment where you can actually start to realize these things for yourself. And you know, as been mentioned more than once, there are many inspirational stories of people who started with nothing and have created amazing successes in their lives. You know, Trevor and I many years ago met a chap in Soweto here who had very little, you know, pre sort of democracy days and all the rest of it, and this chap started off with a little business which he later turned into a butcher shop, which he later grew further. He then went and bought a landfill site in Soweto, and removed, I forget, Trevor, can you remember what it was? It was a huge amount of waste off of that landfill site, and you know, brought in topsoil and all the rest of it, and he built a 12 million rand conference centre, and it was a stunning conference centre, still is. And he did that all pre-democracy days. So, you know, people say, well, you know, there wasn't opportunity, there wasn't the ability, but people were doing it, and people are still doing it, and they'll do it wherever they are around the world. You know, if they are fortunate enough to be in an environment where they realize that they can take different choices and can do things differently, and can get up from those what seem like crushing defeats or insurmountable obstacles that appear to have been placed in their path. So yeah, that's really the way I see it. I'm not suggesting it's always easy. It's definitely not. I think sometimes it's extremely hard, but you know, given the right environment, the right inputs, I think you can always find a solution. And I mean, you know, there are many such stories, as I said. You know, I think there's that story of that lady surfer who lost her leg in a shark attack, if I remember. You know, she's back up surfing. So you know, the Stephen Kotler story that I mentioned yesterday, you know, he was basically writing himself off. You know, now he's a high-profile personality, you know, involved in leading edge research and writing around human performance. So yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and I think we could probably spend a lot of time on it. But yeah, I think we need to choose to wrap this one up. And Lee, what are your thoughts for the morrow?
Well, you know, I think Leo's great in coming up with stories of people, and Edward's talking about inspiration and inspiring, and you've mentioned now, Ivan, these, you know, Sidwell mentioning him, and so it's just prompted for me, could we share tomorrow around somebody who has inspired us, but somebody that we don't know, so not a celebrity, not a name, somebody that's already known to be inspiring. But you know, we talk in Wisdoms, we talk about the extraordinary, ordinary people, and so how can we inspire ourselves and others by sharing these inspiring stories of people who have got up, who, whatever their circumstances or whatever got them down in the first place, they have somehow found a way of getting up and making a difference in whatever place they're in at the moment. So come with a story tomorrow of an inspiring person.
Great, thanks Lee. Yeah, be inspired. something we try to do occasionally. So have a great day further, and come back tomorrow morning and inspire us with your inspiring stories about inspiring people. Have a good one.